Krishna Sindo Dipati Gopeshu Shantara Namaste. I think I'll mute everyone. Okay, so we discussed last week the very important verses 62 and 63. Basically, they discuss how mind works, mind and senses, overall the big picture of how we get distracted in this world. No, this is previous week. When contemplating on the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from that attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger arises. This is the sequence in which things happen. First, we get attracted to things in this world because our past memories will remind us that there is enjoyment in this, and then naturally we develop attachment. Means I want to get it. You would develop a strong desire, and that attachment gives to lust. Lust means basically nobody can stop you. Once you have the lust, no, you won't listen to any good advice. For example, Ravana, Rakshasa, right? Ravana was advised by his wife, his brothers, his ministers. Everybody advised him, don't touch Sita. She's, it will ruin your entire kingdom. You will lose everything. But he wouldn't listen because he's the symbol of lust. Because his mind is so fixed on his desire to fulfill his lust, he wouldn't listen. And what happened ultimately? He got frustrated and ultimately he died, right? So that's exactly what. So we discussed how do we stop this? At this stage, we have to stop. When we realize that this desire is not favorable, it's detrimental to my life, especially spiritual life. When you see that, oh, when you saw something, say a new car or something, you got attracted, or a new phone or something, you immediately realize that this is not in my best interest ultimately. You stop there in the contemplation stage. That's the practical lesson. Okay. And then further degradation. Once you become angry, your mind creates so many ideas. Delusion means this is exactly what is happening with Trump right now. He's even though he lost election, I think he hasn't given up that hope that he will be the president, right? So he's tweeting. I've been hearing, I haven't seen, but various tweets that this election is rigged and all. It's all delusionary, right? From delusion, bewilderment of memory comes. You lose your memory. Basically, all the memory means basically the previous experiences, right? Oh, this is good or this is not good. All of that is lost. Once you get into delusionary state, you lose your past experiences. If your experience is lost, that's it. You would act foolishly, and further leads to further degradation. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. Means you can't discriminate what is right, what is wrong. And when intelligence is lost, one finally falls again into the material pool. Meaning you would incur karma. Whatever action you do in this stage, when your intelligence is lost, right? That would bind you to this material world. Now this week's verse. Raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaischaraन् atmavashay videyatma prasadham adhigacchati. Raga, Dvesha, attachment and detachment. Okay. Vimuktai means one who becomes free from that. One who becomes free from attachment and detachment. You are neither detached nor attached. Vishyan, wait nunchi, so from what? From the sense objects. And then what happens? Keep them under your mind control. Keep senses under your control. Then by what? By doing, following the regulative principles. Vidheyatma. Vidheyatma means understanding what are the do's and what are the don'ts and actually following them. When you do that, what happens? You receive the mercy of God. Prasadam adhigacchati means when you, let's read this. But a person free from all attachment and aversion, attachment and detachment, and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom. Interestingly, regulations, basically it's regulations, but Prabhupada calls it as regulative principles of freedom because that would free us ultimately from this material world, from the bondage to this material world, can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. So now, when you start acting in this fashion, in what fashion? You become free from attachment and aversion. You don't become too enamored by certain things or you hate certain things in this world. Neither do neither of them. You don't go through neither of these deep emotions. You just are in this world and your ultimate goal is to go back to Godhead, right? Go back to God, and everything is used for that purpose. You neither get attached to your whatever positions you have, nor you detest or dislike certain things in this life. You don't hate anything or anybody, and follow the regulative principles. Regulative principles means niyamas, right? Certain basic principles that would help um, want to focus on the ultimate goal of life, which is ultimately uh, to achieve liberation from this existence, material existence. Liberation from this material existence means you don't anymore exist in the material world. Where do you exist? You are a spirit soul. You exist in the spiritual world, right? So that's where you belong originally, and you go back to there. So that's what happens. Just like water drop on a lotus leaf, right? If there is a water drop on the lotus leaf, how does it behave? It shines like a uh, pearl, right? And it is never attached to it. Lotus lotus leaf, if you take and drop a water on it, it's not attached to the lotus leaf at all. If you just move it around, it just floats around. Okay, so very detached, right? So similarly, even though we live in this world, but we don't develop attachment and aversion, dislike or hate things in this world, because both of them lead to karma, right? If you uh, attach to something, what happens? It's in your mind, right? So that creates some kind of a bondage to that object or a person or whoever, right? uh, Now ultimately what happens, because you have that attachment, you will have to take another life whereby again you spend with that object, because you have a desire. Because you have a desire, other than going back, other than the liberation, you have, because you have the desire, God fulfills your desire. Okay, when you become qualified to, when your karma is enough such that you need to enjoy that fruit, or the desire, fulfill the desire, God would keep on arranging more and more lifetimes so that you can fulfill all your desires. And in the process, again, you accumulate more desires. This is an unending process. So, when we live in this world, We should be very careful to not develop deep attachments or aversions to the things, events, or people in this world. So samadrishti. Samadrishti means equal vision. For example, in future verses, uh, Krishna talks about samadarshini, means panditaha samadarshini. Pandita means a person in true knowledge. He has samadrishti. Samadrishti means equal vision to everything. He sees a gold or a pebble of rock equally. What does that mean? For example, general people like all of us without that deep sense of self-realization, we see a gold. We don't treat gold and a pebble equally, right? We treasure. We are enamored by gold, and we don't have much attachment to the pebble or a stone, right? But for a self-realized soul, he sees that either of them can be used in the service of God. For example, you can build a beautiful temple and you can use that stone in the process of building the temple, or you can use the gold in the process of making a jewelry for the lordships, right? A devotee can do like that. So it is not about, so what is not there is my desire to enjoy the object. That is not there. So a completely spiritualist, he sees in terms of its relationship with God. These objects, they exist, but he primarily sees that as an object in relation to God, how I can use this in the service of God, not in my service. When I think in my service, I would have attachment or aversion. You see the point? But when you see everything in relation to God, right, there is no attachment, because everything can be used in the service of God. Of course, you cannot use a brandy or a whiskey bottle in the service of God, but you can understand, right? So whatever can be used in the service of, he sees in that perspective. He doesn't see in his enjoyment perspective. So that is a detached spirit, just like a water on the lotus leaf. So when you have that kind of a spirit, what happens? You get the mercy of God. You receive, you develop spiritually. Okay? And how does that happen? First thing is, one has to follow some regulations. Regulations means everything in limits. Okay? Not too much entertainment, not too less entertainment. uh, in sixth chapter we'll discuss who is a yogi. Who A yogi is a person who balances everything in life. He doesn't eat too much, he doesn't eat too less. He doesn't, he's regulated in everything. He stays away from things that would distract him from his spiritual focus, and keeps himself, in touch with things that would enhance his spiritual life. So in this way, one has to follow the regulative principle. One may say, oh, by following all these principles, you are missing the enjoyment, right? Some people say like that. But it depends on what's our perspective is. If our perspective is, say, I'll give you an example to make us understand, right? Suppose you have a home, okay? You have a home, and it's an independent home, and you have a fence wall right around your home. If your perspective is, oh, this fence is actually limiting my enjoyment of things outside the fence. I can't, I can't see this, I can't see that. You may complain like that. That is one way to see. Or you can see that this fence is actually protecting the property I have. My real treasure is inside the home, and this fence is actually protecting, is giving a protective cover to uh, my treasure. You can see like that, right? So similarly, the regulative principles, the things which are do's and don'ts, certain do's and certain don'ts, when we follow them, do's like, chanting, or hearing the class, like all of you have come, 13 of you, all of you come regularly, every week you hear. You prioritize this do in your life. So when you prioritize do's like this and practice certain don'ts, oh, I don't indulge in illicit relations, I don't indulge in smoking or bad habits, right? So if you follow certain um, don'ts and practice certain do's, those regulations will protect your real treasure. What is your real goal? Your real goal is to completely get liberation from this existence, right? So if your goal is clear, you can treat these regulations as protections, or these regulations as things that would protect you from being distracted from outside things. Okay. Some people say, oh, you don't eat that, you don't watch this, are you not missing life? But actually, I understand what is the real goal of life, right? Based on scriptures. What he does is not, none of the scriptures, either in you know Sanatan Dharma, or take even Quran, or Bible. None of the scriptures teach, okay, enjoy in this world. That is the ultimate way of leading your life in this world. No, everywhere the only lesson that is taught is surrender to God. That is the way to perfect your life. And this world is a temporary place. This is not the place to establish yourself permanently. Do not worry too much about your uh, you know your wealth, riches, all of these things. These are temporary and they will come and go. Focus on the ultimate goal of life. Hmm? Any questions on this? I hope things are clear. Yeah. प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्नचेतसो ह्यासु बुद्धि पर्यवतिष्ठते. I want someone to read this. Sagar Prabhu, can you read the translation?
For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established.
So after telling about a person's state of mind, now we are discussing Sthita Prajna. So Krishna first analyzed how one falls down in the previous verses. Now he tells how to control, right? So this is the first thing he gave. Now further on the same topic, if a person is satisfied in his spiritual life, okay, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such a satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established, very fixed. His intelligence is very fixed. So when one, does like this, he is neither too attached nor too averse to things in this world and follows regulative principles. He receives mercy of God. Once he receives that, he has a protective layer. It's like you go into this world, but as a child, we're all given uh, certain injections, right, to protect us from future infections, so that we have enough resistance in our body. Similarly, when one practices spiritual life, God consciousness or Krishna consciousness, for such a person, because he has received the mercy of God by practicing these principles, what happens? The threefold miseries exist no longer. What are the threefold miseries? We discussed this. Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika, and Adi Daivika. These are the miseries that always are upon all of us. Misery is there. Miseries will be there. Even for us, it will be there. But the influence of the misery on our life will be less. For example, Corona is there. Some people are getting mentally sick, psychologically sick. A lot of people. You may not be aware. I read, books on mind, and news on mind, So this is one big problem in the world right now. A lot of people are getting mentally sick. That is Adhyatmika Klesha. Similarly, Adi Bhautika Klesha. Adi Bhautika Klesha, which means misery is caused by other living entities. Or Adi Daivika means from the nature giving us trouble. Like, for example, Corona right now, right? Nature has given this trouble upon all of us. These are all there with everyone. Just like rain is there, but if you have a umbrella, you are protected, right? Even though you are in the downpouring rain, you are still protected without getting wet. You are fully under the shelter. So similarly, even though these threefold miseries exist, it doesn't mean that we need to experience that. It exists even on us, but because a person has taken to spiritual life seriously, for such a person, the impact is less, right? So that's what this point means. In such satisfied consciousness, because he is innately blissful, he is, suppose I give you an example. Um, if I have a nice plate of bhoga, right? I offer to God, and I have a nice plate of bhoga with rasgullas, gulab jamuns, pakodas, puris, paneer sabji, halwa. All of these are there in a nice plate, and I give to a person who has just eaten fully, stomach full, and I put it before him. Will he feel any happiness in that? He does not, because he's already satisfied. He's already full. He has eaten enough. So he'll say, no thanks, that's okay. Right? So similarly, for a spiritualist, there are two boats of happiness. One is the spiritual happiness, one is the material happiness. If suppose material happiness is there said there are two circles, right? Material happiness sometimes, material situations sometimes give happiness and misery. But this other side, the spiritual side of his life, is always ever increasing blissfulness as he steadily improves his chanting, his study of scriptures, his knowledge. All these things will basically give him inner joy. Even though the outside, the other part of his life is giving him a lot of misery, still because he has this one other aspect in his life, he is not going to become depressed. He is not going to think of suicide, because he knows this is the ultimate thing. This other thing is going to temporary. It will be sometimes um, good, sometimes bad. It's not in my control. So he takes shelter in the other aspect of his life, the spiritual aspect. So that drives as his strength. So in terms of turmoil, difficulties, the people who are spiritually strong, spiritually connected, they thrive through those tough times. For those who are weak or have no spiritual life in their life, these are the people who easily undergo depression, taking sleeping tablets, anxiety, they get all kinds of mental and physical diseases, right? BP and heart attacks. All these come because for them there is just one life, which is material life, and it goes ups and downs, right? It's like a ride. Uh, it's like a very rocky ride. So for them, sometimes it is too happy, sometimes too miserable. Again, another ride up, ride down, ride up, ride down. So they have just one aspect in their life. Another example I give you. So suppose you have again a full plate of nice prasadam, right? There is nice rice and sweets and sabjis. Suppose one sabji is gone too salty. It's too salty. You can't easily eat it. But because you have other nice prasadam, other sweets and other sabjis and other rice items, you can still enjoy it. There is just one aspect that is, or one item that is bad. So similarly, because a spiritualist has, spiritual angle to his life or spiritual dimension to his life, he is not distressed as much as the materialistic person. You see the point? So that becomes the shelter. So see, imagine, right? You see people when they are miserable, what do? Most of the people, they either drink wine or or cigarettes, or they get into some bad habit, or some do binge eating, eat a lot of food to reduce their stress level, and in the process they become too fat. But a spiritualist is works differently. He connects with his spiritual life strongly in those situations, and in that process, that is the real solution to the problem actually. But unfortunately, because people don't have the understanding of the dimension of spiritual life, they only stand on the material platform, which is very tottering and delicate and very fragile platform. So that's why people go through a lot of emotional turbulence in their lives, because they don't have a good shelter. But a person who has strong shelter of God, he's able to see everything in relation to God, all things that are happening in his life. He thinks that, oh, this is also a ride, I just need to go through this. नष्टि बुद्धिर अयुक्तस्य न च युक्तस्य भावना न च भा न च भाव्यातः शांतिर अशांतस्य कुतः सुखम. Shivani, can you read the translation?
Translation. Okay, Prabhuji. One who is not connected. One second. One who is not connected with the Supreme and Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. How can there be any happiness without peace? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So one who is not connected to the Supreme, or who does not have a spiritual goal in life, or doesn't have any understanding of soul in his life, right? For such a person, he can never have transcendental intelligence. Transcendental intelligence, there are two types of intelligences. Bhagavad Gita talks. One is the spiritual intelligence, the other is material intelligence. What is material intelligence? Material intelligence is the ability to analyze things materially very well. For example, somebody could be very good at math. He can figure out all the equations very easily. Or he can be very good at data analytics. He can munch the numbers so easily and figure out things. That is material intelligence. Or one can start a great company like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates. That is all material intelligence. They are supremely powerful in that direction. Okay, but the other intelligence is transcendental intelligence. Transcendental intelligence means understanding driven by this, the spiritual goal, understanding, and basically the spiritual discrimination means what is the ultimate goal of life, and discriminating what is right action, what is wrong action, uh, with respect to your ultimate spiritual goal of life. Okay, so that is called transcendental intelligence. One may be very good at material intelligence but have no spiritual intelligence or transcendental intelligence, or one may be very good at spiritual intelligence but have no material intelligence. They have no bearing in each other. For example, all of you might be much better than Mark Zuckerberg in terms of spiritual intelligence, because he may not be even caring about, you know, what is the real goal of life. He's just locked into certain business idea, and just growing that all his life he will do that, and he may die and again come back to this world as somebody else. He's like could come back as a car driver in his next life. Who knows? So all that he has achieved in this life would be just gone into gutter. But a spiritual intelligence person, even though he may not have materially, he could be materially well off, but because he has fixed his mind on the ultimate goal of life, you know he he actually achieves the real goal of life. Okay, so one who is not connected to the supreme can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind. So you look at all these people, they're always disturbed, whether you are a president of America or doesn't matter, whoever you are, because you don't lack God consciousness. You can look at President Trump tweets. He's so disturbed right now, right? No steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. Where is the peace for him? Okay, no peace, even though he's the head of the country, and in fact most powerful person in the world. No peace. Do you want such life? I think our life is much better off than his. We have a clear goal of life. We are practicing spiritual life. We are all coming together, hearing Bhagavad Gita. Far better. You won't imagine. You may think, oh, he has so much name, fame, prestige. No, no, it doesn't matter. This is just one life, one flash. How do you care? Next life he could be a nobody. Who knows? He may be a garbage collector in Kenya. Who knows what the life is going to be next? You are all focused on spiritual life. You're all driven by spiritual goal. Your life is much better off after at least coming to understanding this Gita wisdom. I'm telling we are in much far better situation. That is not to just boast because we are doing this. That's what Gita is saying. I'm not saying. Okay, this is words of Krishna. So anybody, you take anybody else in the world who does not have spirituality, there is no possibility of peace. This is fixed. You can go anywhere. Don't expect anybody to be happier than anybody who is having spiritual life. Okay, and how can there be happiness without peace? It means that ultimately they are not even happier than any of us. Okay, that's the fact of life. It's not name, it's not fame. These are all material, temporary things. Come and go. Nobody, once those people come down from their post, like president, or most of people don't even care. Right now he may get all the, next year he goes to India. It's not the same as last time he went to India, right? Last time he went to India, they gave a big podium with, practically millions of people watching Trump's speech. It's not going to be the same anymore, isn't it? So all the understand that everything in this world is just a temporary thing. Nothing is going to stick around with you. So real happiness is in achieving connection with the Supreme. Yeah, so Prabhupada explains here. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone, and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. There is a beautiful verse in this regard. 5th chapter 29th. Let me go there. Bhoktaram Yajyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheswaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Jnatva Mam Santim Richati. Bhoktaram Yajyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Jnatva Mam Santim Richati. A person in full consciousness of me, Krishna is speaking this. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all the sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities. Real benefactor, real well-wisher of every one of us is that supreme lord, Krishna. Attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. If you have that understanding, Krishna is saying you will achieve peace from all the pangs of material. Same verse in different words. One who understands the nature of God and who is your ultimate well-wisher. Right now, when anything happens, any material miseries come in your life, you understand all of those are experiences that are given by our loving God for our own improvement, right? So your vision completely changes. Then there is no misery. In fact, there is only peace. Indriyanam hi charatan yanmano anuvidiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavam ivambhasi. Uma Paulam Mataji, you want to read? Hello? Surya, Suryaja and Sucheta, you want to read?
Yeah,
Yeah, please read the translation.
yeah, sure. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence.
So now Krishna is giving a very important point here. We have to be very careful. While this understanding is all good, so one has to be very cautious. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even though there is a great, very strong boat, but if there is a very strong wind, it cannot withstand. Wind is so powerful it can just trip away the strongest or the biggest boat. So similarly, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away man's intelligence. Even if you have one roaming sense, you have certain weakness of touching certain things or seeing certain things or eating certain things, which are not which are beyond uh, beyond regulations, meaning that's not real. You went beyond uh, the limits, okay? Which means you are doing things which are not good in your eating like too much of sweet, for example, right? That's having lack of control of tongue. Even if you have one roaming sense, one weak sense on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Man or woman, it's just gender indifferent. Basically, if your mind is focused, because if you have a weak sense and then mind supports that, my mind is dragged by that sense, you can lose everything. Basically, your intelligence is lost, means you can't discriminate what is right, what is wrong. You just go in the wrong direction. So one has to be careful. There is always danger in this world. So watch your the roaming senses. Basically, don't let your senses off guard. Whenever you understand that your senses are getting agitated, stop there right away before they they have a negative influence on you. Okay, don't let it drag your mind and make you lose your intelligence and act foolishly, act or think foolishly. Yeah. Uma Sajikar Mata, Sajikumar Mataji, can you read this?
Unless all the senses are engaged in the service of Lord, even one of them engaged in the sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement, as mentioned in the life of Maharaja Ambarisa. Is it correct, Guruji?
Yeah, yes, Maharaj Ambarisha. Correct.
Maharaj Ambarisa, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind.
So the easiest way to control mind is to have an engagement for all these senses in the service of God. For example, Bhagavatam describes the life of Maharaj Ambarisha. He was a great king, emperor of the world, but he was always engaging his senses. For example, the description goes like this: his eyes are always engaged in seeing the deity form of the Lord. So every day, of course, that's not the only thing he does, but the primary duty of his eyes is to see the form of Lord in the temple or at his home, and his nostrils are engaged in smelling the flowers offered to the Lord. You offer beautiful flowers to the Lord, and then after Lord accepts, you can take them and smell them, right? So that is smelling the uh, flowers offered to the Lord. So similarly, he eats only bhoga that was offered for the pleasure of the Lord. You cook nice items and offer to God and take it back and eat it. So engage only tongue in the eating of prasadam. And his hands or his body in touching the feet of the devotees, great devotees, or touching their bodies. And his mouth in singing the glories of the Lord. So in this way, he was actually Maharaj, even though he was externally a king and serving his kingdom, his main focus was always his spiritual life. His spiritual life where he engages all his senses in the service of the Lord. So that is the easiest way to control one's mind. This purport says. So basically, having some positive engagement for mind. If you don't have positive engagement, mind is always a prioritizer, right? It always goes to the most attractive thing it has at the point in time. So if you don't have any positive engagement, spiritual engagements like chanting or hearing, then your mind, if you are not hearing right now this class, you might be watching TV, or you might be playing some game, or you could be doing something else, which is or reading news. So many other engagements are there, but you have prioritized this, isn't it? So that's very important, and that's how Ambaris Maharaj was able to control his mind. That's the way to control one's mind. Over a period of time, as you start, it becomes your second nature. Spiritual life becomes your second nature. You do right now it may appear like one-off thing. This is one more add-on plus one. No, actually, slowly it becomes your second nature, and your thinking, um, your ideas, everything would change, transform. You start seeing this world very differently. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigratani sarvasaha indriyani indriyardhebhyas tasya prajna pratishtata. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Now, this doesn't happen automatically as one steadily over a period of time, does chanting and hearing this knowledge. Slowly, and slowly, our senses become restrained from their sense objects. Means they don't have any more attachment to the objects for their gratification. That is when your intelligence becomes steady. Means you can very clearly see what is right, what is wrong. Right now, because of our attachments and aversions in life, we don't have steady intelligence. Our mind is always wavering and our intelligence is not fixed. Sometimes you think this is right, some other time you think that is right. And these two could be completely contradictory. Those things are happening because we don't have steady intelligence. When we have fixed intelligence, when we have very good clarity on what is right, what is wrong, then that happens when our senses are very restrained. Means I don't know if I told you, when I remember one of my senior in college, he got an IIT rank. It is a big thing. This is for masters. At the time he's in final year BTech. He got almost like all India 25 or something like very good rank. He was a man of very steady intelligence. I've known him as person who reads Bhagavad Gita at a very young age, early 20s. And when we met him, he was so steady. I was stunned. I was not at all like that. When I got next year rank, right? He was so steady. When somebody said you got it, then he would say yes, I got it. That's it. He would not be too jubilant or too depressed. Of course, it's a happy situation, so he's not too much agitated by emotion. He was steady, fixed. I was really, really surprised by his response to that situation. Similarly, we see in the great devotees' life, when calamities come, they're not disturbed. For example, look at Pandavas, right? They had to go through so much difficulties. They stayed in Vanvas, their home is set on fire, their wife is disrobed. Through all this, they were able to, but they always received right intelligence from Krishna, right? They have steady intelligence. They are consulting the right person when they are in trouble, right? So that is possible because they have control on their senses. So it's very important to have steady intelligence, to have control on the senses. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called a sadhaka, or a suitable candidate for liberation. All of us are sadhakas. We are spiritual seekers. So what do we need? Ultimately, we should be guided. Right now, this knowledge that we are reading is coming from Srila Prabhupada, who is a very bona fide spiritual master. So this is one way. And also, you can also, as you advance spiritually, we will recommend you to take next step in your life. to receive a spiritual master, guru, right? That happens for a period of time. As you become sincere and steady in your spiritual life and focus your life spiritually, you will come to a stage where you want to really take it to the next level. Then you receive a bona fide spiritual master as your guru, and your life becomes perfect. End of this life. या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुने. Varalakshmi Mataji, you want to read?
Okay, Prabhu. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage.
This verse tells the difference in perspective of a spiritualist versus a materialist. They have a very different perspective towards this world. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control. It's not literally the day and night. It's basically, for example, if you even take normal life, the people that become too active in the nights are people in the wine shops, or clubhouses, cabaret dances. Those are people that focus on those things, and these people generally sleep very late in the morning. They don't wake up till 8:39 in the morning. So because their focus is so different. But for a spiritualist, for him morning time is the most critical time. He wants to wake up early, take quick bath, bow down to God and practice some sadhana, chant the holy name, do some worship of the Archa Vigraha at home. So these are spiritual activities. So the time that a spiritualist considers very important, and a spiritualist would sleep as early as 9:30 in the night. He doesn't want to miss waking up early in the morning. He's so enthusiastic, so he sleeps night early so that he can wake up early and again experience the joy of worshipping Lord in the morning. That becomes your second nature. Right now we may not have the taste, but as you practice steadily, that is the thing that becomes your second nature, and you receive unlimited joy in connecting with God. Okay, so you look forward for that, just like a drunkard would look forward for the night. He considers the whole day is a damn waste. He thinks this job is useless, and night is the time he's waiting for. As soon as night comes, he just rushes to the clubhouse, does all nonsense, gets disturbed in the mind, and comes back drunk and wakes up in the morning with hangover, right? So that's his life. So similarly, so people have different focuses. What is night for one person is day for other person, because completely different perspective. The time of awakening for all beings is the night for the introspective says. The people of the world who are worldly, they're always focused on the world. How can I get this? How can I get that? How can I have something better than that person? How can I take revenge on this person? He is my enemy. I need to get rid of this guy. He is my friend. I need to give him something. So this is the whole, his focus is always external. For the uncontrolled, yeah? His focus is always outside. But for the introspective side, his goal is always to connect with God, who is also inside him, Paramatma, right? He is there, and there is also Paramatma within him, right? His goal is always to connect with God. How can I, wake up early? How can I improve my chanting? How can I hear and implement these teachings in my life? how can I give spiritual life to my children, my wife, my husband, and how can I share this knowledge with others? This is the whole goal of a spiritualist. Completely different. They're two worlds apart. That's how you can see the difference between different attitudes of people. Renuka Mataji, are you there?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Can you read?
Yeah. Purport.
The purport.
Hare Krishna. There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are right. Is it right or night? Night for personal materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization.
So
That's all?
Yeah. So that's what we discussed.
Yeah.
Are very different. The activities of a introspective stage are a thought,
Yes.
are night for persons who are materially observed. If you ask somebody who is going to a clubhouse for enjoying, ask him, we have a nice Bhagavad class. Please come and attend. It will give you very good knowledge to lead a very peaceful life. He said, "Oh my God, this guy is wasting all his life in trying to learn something which is impractical. There is no enjoyment in that." They'll think like that because their focus is different. You see, Bhagavad Gita covers everything. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy, sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. You see the difference? So as you steadily practice, your joy inside your inner wall builds stronger and stronger. Okay? And that joy is never ending. If you become completely attached to God, there is nothing that would stop your happiness. You're always blissful, happy, uh, peaceful. Nothing would disturb your life. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He's indifferent. As I said, right? You have so many items in your plate. If one item goes bad or two items goes bad, there are 10 other items you can nicely eat, right? So for a materialistic person, there is just one thing. There is only that one bad thing that got spoiled. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions. Right? Sometimes he might be externally in a very bad state, maybe lost his job, lost his relations, lost his parents, or lost his children, whatever. Could be all these things can even happen to a spiritualist. It doesn't mean they don't. But because he is spiritually situated, he has the tools to face them much better than, because everything comes upon us based on our past karma. Nobody can stop it. Because you have taken to spiritual life, the effects would be reduced actually. Otherwise, you could be facing a much difficult situation. The situation would be much better, but you still have to go through your karma. Nobody can stop that. But in those situations also, you would be able to face in a very with a very steady mind. You can um, you don't react. You actually um, respond to situations in life. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat Tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve shashantimapnoti nakamakani. Beautiful verse. This verse we memorize actually. Apurvamaram achalah pratishtam. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. See, Krishna is explaining how to be, who really uh, achieves peace in this world. Everybody gets desires, whether you are a spiritualist or materialistic, doesn't matter. But when the desire comes, how do you react or respond? That differentiates between a spiritualist or a materialist. When the desires come in like an incessant flow unstoppable flow, that's how it happens, isn't it? That enter like rivers into ocean. Don't think that, oh, I'm studying Bhagavad Gita, I'm not going to get any bad desires. It's not, it doesn't work like that. Everybody gets desires in this world which are not really conducive. But as you progress spiritually, those material desires would keep reducing. They would not be very strong desires. It become weaker and weaker, which is like ever being filled but is always still. Okay, just like an ocean absorbs waters of all the rivers without any real change, right? Similarly, a spiritualist who is able to handle these desires without reacting to them can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. If you're like a man who always tries to fulfill the different desires, okay, you try to fulfill every desire that comes to your mind. I want this thing, I want that thing, I want to be everywhere. Huh? You will never achieve peace in this world. That's what this verse is, isn't it? So what's the meta point? Don't get disturbed by the incessant flow of desires, but be steady. Understand that is the nature of the mind to always give you some ideas of various sense gratifications. You can enjoy like this, you can enjoy ideas of sense gratification. You should always be steady. When you are steady, you will achieve peace. Nitin Prabhuji, can you read this?
Yes, Prabhu. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it's always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desire because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like an ocean, always full in himself. Wonderful.
Yeah. So look at this point. Now, why a spiritualist? He is also like any person in this world, but because he is satisfied inside by his spiritual life, his connection with God, that gives a sense of satisfaction or peace from inside. So all these outside desires, they come, but they don't disturb. Just like I was giving the other example, if suppose you have already eaten nice meal, if I give you another plate, will you be disturbed? You won't be.
No. Yeah.
Right? So, but if you give to a hungry man, he would attack the food, isn't it?
Yes.
So similarly, in this world, because most of the people are empty inside. You see the point? Most of the people don't have an understanding of spiritual life, or there is no peace in their life. Now what happens with them? Somebody shouts at them, manager shouts at them, they get very disturbed because their inside is all empty. Any agitation comes from outside, they get disturbed. You see the point? Are you all getting it? So spiritual life develops our inner muscle to face the situations outside much better. It's like an inner armor. And because of that happiness inside, in your chanting or singing nice bhajans, that is a spiritual joy. When you are, suppose in the morning you do all this and you're completely soulful in your life already. In the morning you did nice chanting, you're already at a very at a very high consciousness, or at a very a kind of a satisfied state of mind. Now when you go and at your work, your manager cribs everyone in the team, everybody gets disturbed, but you don't, because you understand, I am doing this job for getting it's my duty, to take care of my family and lead a spiritual life. So you are not disturbed because you have a steady mind inside. Okay, so you have a satisfying life in the background, so you're not agitated like others. So that's what it means. But suppose a person doesn't have any spiritual life, he goes there, his manager gives him bashing, he thinks that oh, will I lose my job, goes through so many emotions that are not very conducive to his emotional health, because he's empty inside. He doesn't have any shelter, he doesn't have any strong sense of happiness or peace in the mind. So what is important, we have to be practicing devotees, or practicing spiritualists, meaning we have to practice chanting every day. You have to if you get time, try to read something, like at least for 5 minutes read this book, at least few translations, so that gives you steady mind. And then attending class every week regularly without missing. So these are all important aspects. Prabhu, next, can you read?
Yes, Prabhu. Desires may continue to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into ocean, but he is steady in his activities, and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires of sense gratification. That is the proof of Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclinations of material sense gratification, although desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like an ocean and therefore enjoy full peace.
So what does this mean? It basically it means that he is steady from inside. His joy is, he's not trying to find joy outside. His joy is always inside. He is satisfied. He's always remembering God. So there is no external circumstances can be sometimes unsteady or wavering, but because of his inner peace, he's always satisfied. I think we are in the last two verses. Let's complete this chapter. Vihaya kaman yah sarvan homascharati nisprisa nirmamo nirahankara sasantim adhigacchati. So in various verses, Krishna is telling different aspects of a spiritualist, how he is steady, how a spiritually advanced soul remains steady in different situations. Because Arjuna asked how a Sthitaprajna lives his life, how he walks, how he talks. So Krishna is explaining how he is able to how he's able to keep his mind steady in this world, because it is all happening because of his spiritual consciousness. Who is iPhone? Can you read? Hare Krishna.
Hi, Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Dinesh.
Oh, Dinesh Prabhu, yeah. Okay, please read.
So the translation,
Yeah, translation.
a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace.
So we are all in this material world. Why? I explained this a couple of times before. Because we are here to fulfill desires, all material desires. Okay, but when one understands that, this is not the ultimate goal, and if I have these material desires, I will keep on doing punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, we keep on rotating in this material world. When one understands, okay, and gives up these desires for sense gratification, which means he lives free from the desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego. Proprietorship means thinking that I am the lord of this home, I am the lord of this home office, I'm the vice president, or I'm the president, like that. Proprietorship, giving up all proprietorship, devoid of all false ego. Wrong identity. Wrong identity means identity other than that I am the soul. I am just a spirit soul in this world. Okay, people will go on with the designation. I'm engineer. I'm this. I'm that. Of course, we specify when somebody asks, in interview or to know more about what we are. But in the mind, understand that those are all temporary identities. Sometimes they change. So they are not real identities. So one who understands that, I am a spirit soul, and my real goal is to achieve God, connection with God in this world. And the real thing I have to do is practice spiritual life seriously. One who understands that and does not hang on to this false sense of proprietorship in this world, he alone can attain real peace. He will achieve real peace in this world. Because he is not too desirous of enjoying sense gratification in this world. He alone can achieve peace. So, what is a peace formula? If you want to be peaceful, try to reduce your desires for enjoying in this world. And also, do not think, we should always think that we are only trustees in this world. Trustees means God has given us this home, this children, this family, this job, whatever, and I'm a trustee, means I have to act in my responsibility to fulfill my duties. That's how we have to always see ourselves in. Oh, don't think, oh, this wife is mine, I can enjoy it. Is my sense object for enjoyment, or this husband is my sense object for enjoyment, or I'm the boss of this company, I'm the proprietor, enjoyer. Never have that kind of mindset. Like we discussed, Ambarish Maharaj, even though he was a great king, he was always putting himself in obedience to God. So similarly, even though whoever you may be, however great you may be, we should not have any false proprietorship, because ultimately we understand nothing comes along with us. after this life, isn't it? Your home, properties, everything would be gone. One time, Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, he was in America spreading this wisdom all over the country. The time, the great grandson of Henry Ford, his name is Alfred Ford, he was very enthusiastic in spiritual life. So he comes to see Srila Prabhupada. And Henry Ford is the founder of Ford Motor Company. He, in fact, changed the whole game of manufacturing, the industry of manufacturing auto cars, which was never done before. So when his grandson came, like 30-40 years back, when he met Srila Prabhupada, first time he met him, and Srila Prabhupada asked him, Alfred Ford, where is your grandfather Henry Ford? Of course, Henry Ford passed away decades ago. So Alfred Ford understood that even though you are great in this world when you are here, but that is a temporary thing and everybody forgets you. It doesn't matter how many achievements you have in this world. So there is no point in having false proprietorship of things in this world. He immediately surrendered to his life, and now he is a fully dedicated spiritualist. He, in fact, is constructing a very large temple in Mayapur, India, almost spending 700 crores in that one project as an offering to his guru. His guru is Srila Prabhupada. So, it has changed. I mean, he chants every single day, 16 rounds. He teaches Bhagavad Gita like me. Of course, he does teach much better than me. Uh, you know, so you can understand. He has, even though he was coming from such rich background, he understood all the riches I have are only for this lifetime, and they are not going to be with me forever. I should not act like a false proprietor. Instead, I should focus on perfecting my life. So he surrendered his life. He became a full-time devotee. Now he's putting all his energy in constructing this wonderful temple as his offering or gift to his guru. He's no old man. He's in 60s, but his goal is just, before I die, I need to complete this construction. Very huge project. Once that comes, it's going to be a game changer. It's going to bring the entire world to the wisdom of Gita and Bhagavatam. So there are wonderful arrangements, 3D arrangements of how the entire universe was created, and as per Srimad Bhagavatam, the universal model as per Srimad Bhagavatam is being displayed there. I have shared that video, I think, sometime back with in our group. The whole thing will come live in that temple. Why construct such a big temple, right? Some people ask. It is, everything belongs to God, and because people are forgetful of all this wisdom, there should be some people who need to bring out all this culture so that people really appreciate the Vedic wisdom and the depth of Vedic wisdom. That's the reason for constructing such huge temple. Okay.
Also, I heard a reason constructing a big temple is, another thing is attraction. People have attraction for big things, beautiful things, and attraction comes as one of the primary quality of Krishna. So having his temple most beautiful, biggest, makes sense, and that's how people will get attracted.
Yeah. Because in this world, people are attracted to beautiful, wonderful things. the spiritualists in our movement, they want to present these beautiful temples to this world so that they actually, experience that beauty of Lord. And that is purifying. That's not, if you try to see the beauty of this world, like Niagara Falls, they are not, they have no spiritual merit. But when you look at the form of Archivigraha and appreciate the beauty of it, you actually advance spiritually, right? Like we read in the story of Ambarish Maharaj, he was witnessing the Lord's form. That's the only purpose he sees. He thinks that as the purpose of his eyes. Yeah, let's read this. Esha bhammi sthiti prajna, nainam prapya vimuhyati, stitvasyam tisvasyam antakalepi brahma nirvana mrichyate. Shivani, can you read?
Yes, Prabhuji, sorry.
Can you read the translation?
Yes. That is the way of spiritual godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter the kingdom of God. Thank you.
Yeah. So now Krishna is explaining what happens if one leads spiritual life all his life. Once one attains, steady intelligence through practice of sadhana, through practice of spiritual life, if he is situated at the hour of death in that kind of consciousness, what is the goal? Brahma nirvana machati. One attains spiritual kingdom of God. One achieves perfection, liberation from this existence. Okay, so we'll end the class here. I urge, we don't have time today. We try to finish the chapter. So try to read Bhagavad Gita. I could not organize the quiz, but we will organize on the first 10 slokas of first chapter. Sometime. It's a interesting and fun quiz like last time we did. So yeah, thank you all for attending. Continue attending. There is so much to learn and apply in our life. Just by attending this 1 hour, this can be very transformative to your journey of lives in this world. Could have lived millions of lives already, and connecting to spirituality is a turning point in the journey of lifetimes. So don't think this is just another class or on the way to spend time. This is the time. This is the thing. This is the real thing in our life. By the way, have any of you living in Seattle were able to come visit the temple and collect the gift?
Yes, Prabhuji, I collected today.
You got it. Anybody else?
Yes, Hare Krishna,
Yes,
Guruji, even
Prabhu.
I collected today.
Prabhu got it. Good.
I also collected it, Prabhu.
Dinesh Prabhu? Is that Dinesh Prabhu?
Yes,
Sagar.
I also collected today.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm very happy that you all received. For those who are not here, I got one message Prabhuji sent. Anybody else? Anybody else who hasn't collected? Please message me your address. We will send to your home if you are not in Seattle. Okay. Of course, if you are in India, it's difficult to send, but if you are in US, you can send. Okay. Thank you all. We'll again meet next week.
Prabhu, next week is Diwali time, right? So I don't know how many will be available.
Okay. We'll give a gap. Because last time we did the class and most people missed it. So we'll give gap next week. Again, we'll meet next week. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, do you want
Yes,
to also
Prabhu.
do some little Damodar Ashtakam summary?
Shall we do it? We are already 6:35. It takes 5 minutes only. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes. Next
Yeah,
call.
it's okay, Prabhuji.
Okay, so Shivani would lead us. Is that okay, Shivani?
Sorry, Prabhuji?
Did I put you on spot? Can you lead us? Can you speak out, and all of us will unmute ourselves, and basically sing after Shivani.
Oh no, Roji, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I'll read translation.
Not now? Okay, then Nitin Prabhu will do it for us.
Prabhu.
Okay.
Prabhu, we wanted a translation and explanation from you.
No, we don't have time for that today because it will take time, 6:35.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, let's do only 2 slokas for today.
Yes. Prabhu, you sing, we'll sing behind you. That's much better.
Okay. That's the reason. Anyway, you can unmute yourself if you want to. If you're not comfortable, it's okay. Namamishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam
Namameshwaram Sachidanandam
Anandarupam
Lasat Kundalam
Prajamanam
Yashodadiyolokala Om Vistam Apyanta Todritya Gopyam
Yashodha Bhulukaladavamanam Paramrashtashtagopyam
Rudam Tam Muhurnirvam Richantam
Rubantam. Oh, yeah, Prabhu, continue.
Bhojayugmena Shatankanetram
Rudantam Purnetram Yudmam Rujantam Karam Bhojayugmena Santhakanetra
Uswasakam Patri Rekhankakanta Stita Bhakti
Muhushvasakam Patri Rekha Kakantha Stithagraiva Damodaram Bhakti Baddham.
So the story goes like this. Lord Krishna, let's read it. It doesn't explain the past time. As usual, Krishna, as a child, he would steal butter, isn't it? He would steal butter from different gopis' homes, and he would feed monkeys, and he would feed his friends. They would break the pots and make the entire, big mess in every home. So every gopi would complain to Yashoda, and Yashoda would say, I'll teach a lesson to my kid. Okay, and one time he was caught stealing again butter. Every gopi, even though they complained to Yashoda, all of them really love Krishna so much, and they want actually Krishna to come and steal their butter every single day. But still, as a matter of duty, they would always, in a complaining way, speak with Yashoda. See, your Krishna will come and spoil the entire butter at our home today, or he spoiled our flour, or they would always complain like that. And one time, he was caught red-handed. He was caught red-handed by Yashoda, and Yashoda was because Nanda Maharaj was the king of the town. She wants to make sure her child does not misbehave with the localites. So she wants to chastise him and teach him a lesson. So she would be running after Krishna with a stick, and as a punishment, what she wants to do to Krishna, she wants to bring Krishna to a mortar and bind him with a rope as a punishment. In olden days, they used to punish like that: keep a person outside under sun by tying with ropes like that. So Yashodama wants to do the same thing with Krishna. Now she has a rope. She was about to tie him to the mortar, grinding mortar, but she's not able to do that. Every time she's trying to put a knot around the tummy of Krishna with the mortar, she's always 2 fingers too short. The the rope, she would bring again new rope and try to attach to the existing rope, again try to make a knot, again it's 2 fingers too short, means the rope is not sufficient. So the story goes like this. So now in that, so this song was sung by Satyavrata Muni. Satyavrata Muni, right? Yeah. It's not here, but so the first verse, it means, to the supreme controller who possesses an eternal flame of blissful knowledge, whose glistening earrings swing to and fro, who manifested himself in Gokula, who stole the butter that the gopis kept hanging from the rafters of their storerooms, and who then quickly jumped up and ran in retreat in fear of Mother Yashoda, but was ultimately caught. To that Supreme Lord Sri Damodara, I offer my humble obeisances. So this author, he gets this particular pastime in his mind, and the sweet pastime of Krishna stealing the butter from the homes of gopis, and he was remembering Krishna's form in his mind. Remembering Krishna's form is spiritual activity. It's not material activity. If you remember movie scene or anything material, that is material. But remembering Krishna is a spiritual thing. And in the form of Krishna, he has beautiful earrings that are shining, and so in that form, he is actually, what is he doing? He was stealing the butter from the homes of gopis, and he quickly jumped out from that place, and running out of fear, he sees Mother Yashoda right behind him. If you are caught red-handed doing some mistake, how do you feel? You fear so much. You feel a lot of anxiety, and as a child, there will be tears in the eyes, isn't it? So that's exactly how the form of Krishna is at this point. Okay, he immediately turned around, he broke apart, immediately turned around, and right there is Yashodama with a stick in her hand. Right? The Supreme Lord, who is feared by fear personified, who is feared by death personified, now before his devotee, Yashoda is a devotee also, right? Ultimately, she is a devotee. She wanted to serve the Lord in that particular relation as a mother, and so she was given that position. But otherwise, she is also a devotee. So, even though he is the Supreme Lord of all the universes, but before Yashoda, he was grief-stricken, just like a child who is fearful before her mother, right? So the Supreme Lord, even though he was the Supreme Lord of everything, even he becomes like that before his devotee. It is an exchange of love. It's not a material fear like all of us go through. It's not a material emotion. It's a spiritual emotion, actually. In the second verse, upon seeing his mother's whipping stick, Mother Yashoda would be, she has a whipping stick. Sometimes whenever he does mischief, she would use probably. So he cried and rubbed his eyes again and again with his lotus hands. So Krishna would be rubbing his hands again and again. His eyes were fearful and his breathing very quick because he has done some mischief, right? And as Mother Yashoda bound his belly with ropes, He shivered in fright and his pearl necklace shook. He was shivering in fear. To this Supreme Lord, Lord Damodara, I offer my humble obeisances. So this author is remembering Krishna in this sweet, beautiful form, where he was rubbing his hands, he's rubbing his eyes with his hands, and he's shivering in fright. It's the most beautiful form of the Lord. This pearl necklace shook down. Yeah, we'll read further next week. It's already 6:40. Okay. Thank you all. If you get time, if not, you read it. You try to hear what we shared last week in the download video I shared. Please read that. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.